Today we're going to be working on factoring linear expressions. So remember that to take notes, have your math notebook out and let's get started. Here's our vocabulary. So the first word is monomial, a number or variable or a combination. Okay, so a monomial is just one. So 25 or x or 40x, right? It's like your term, okay? A factor is a verb, and it's to write a number as a product of its factors. Okay, so you have basically a product, which is multiplication, with its factors. Okay, the noun is a number that can be divided to other numbers. And then the greatest common factor, or the GCF, we worked on this last year, is the largest factor. So for example, if we have 25, is the GCF of 25 and 75. So because 75, you can break that out to 25 times 3, right? And then this would be 25. So it's the biggest number that you can divide by, or the largest factor. All right, here's our first one. The first thing that we're going to do is we have to find greatest common factor. So in order to factor algebraic expressions or linear expressions, we have to be able to find the greatest factor. So the best thing that I like to do is off to the side, kind of like your little scratch work, right? I like to find my greatest common factor between here. Well, I have to break up the 4, which is 2 times 2, and then you have times m, okay? So I'm going to put 2 times 2 times m. Now I'm going to do the 12m and do the same thing. So I know that this is 3 times 4 times m. But then I can break up that 4 into 2 times 2. So really I have a 3, a 2, a 2, and an m, all right? So go from lowest to highest. So my lowest would be 2. So 2 times 2 times 3 times m. Now, remember the greatest common factor is what does it have in common between both? So let's look. I've got a 2 and I have another 2, so they match up. Okay. I don't have a 3 in the top one, so I can't do that. But my m's match. So this would be 2 times 2 times m is what I would have for my greatest common factor. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then I have an m. So my greatest common factor of both of them would be 4m. Okay, here's our next one, and I just want to show you how factoring is done with using models. So to factor, you have to think of it's the use the distributive property but backwards. Okay, you have to just work backwards. So it's kind of the reverse of it, right? Instead of multiplying out, you're kind of dividing out each one, right? So I'm going to show you how to go ahead and factor out. So that you have 3x. So here's my 3x's here, and then plus 9, and I have 9 ones here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move these evenly in between each one. So I'm dividing it evenly, and then I can see from my model how much is in one group. So I'm just going to look at this first group here. Okay. Remember, this is x, and then I have 3. So this would be x plus 3, right? And then I have how many groups of it? I have 3 groups. So that would be what is factored. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it just doing a algebraically. So I have 3x plus 9. I have 3x. I'm going to find my common. So I have 3 times x, my greatest common factor. And then I have 9, and I have 3 times 3. Well, what do I have in common? I have a 3. So that means that I can pull out the 3. So I'm going to pull out the 3, right? And have my parentheses. So I have to divide this one by 3. So it would be x. And then I have to divide this one by 3, right? And that would be 3 here. All right, so in my head, I'm dividing by 3 to pull it outside. Now, I'm not changing my factor. I'm not changing my problem, because if you can look now, I can see that if I distribute, this is 3 times x, which is 3x, and 3 times 3, which is x. Oops, I must have gotten, this needs to be plus 3, okay? And that, it would be my final answer here. All right, we're gonna factor 3x and 33y. So what I like to do, remember, I like to find my factor tree, right? You might be able to do this in your head, which is totally fine, but this is 3 times x, remember, and this would be 3 times 11, and I'm gonna put times y. All right, what do I have that's common in between my 3x and my 33y? So I'm gonna write it in order. I have 3 times 11 times y. Let's go ahead and circle. So I see that I have 3's in common. Next, I have an x right here. Do I have an x on the bottom? No. So the only number that I have in common is the 3. So that means that I can pull out a 3 from the 3x and a 3 from the 3y. So my factor would be 3. This 3 goes out on the bottom. This is your 3, or your greatest common factor. And then what is left over is your x. Oops, wrong color. Your x, and then plus, it's plus because of what was here, 11y. And I got the 11y here and the x right here. So what's left over gets put in these boxes here, okay? Or I mean in the parentheses. And that is your factored expression. So your greatest common factor, and then this is the leftovers, right? I guess you could say, right? All right, let's go to the next problem. All right, here's our next problem. We have 14x minus 16y. So I'm gonna write 14x over here, and I'm going to find my greatest common factor between these two. So I know that this is 2 times 7, which is 14, times x. This would be, let's say, 4 times 4, right? Times y. Well, they don't have anything factored. I don't see any numbers, but I did not factor all the way. So you got to keep on going to make sure that you factor everything down to its prime factors, right? So 4 is 2 times 2, and this 4 is 2 times 2, and then you have times y. So I have a 2, 2, 2, 2, and don't forget that y. So I'm going to go ahead and write it over here. So 14x is 2 times 7 times x. 16y is lots of 2's. There's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then times y. So let's find our common factors now. I'm going to circle what's common. So I have a 2. And then I have a 7 here. But there's no 7 in this factors here. And then I have an x, and there's no x. So I'm going to go ahead and factor out the 2. This is the 2, and I'm going to just make a note that this is your GCF right here. And then in your parentheses, these are your leftovers here. So I've got, I guess I'll put it in blue. Let's go ahead and put it in blue here, and I'll underline it. So my leftovers are the 7x and whatever this is here. Okay, so I have to do 2 times 2, that's 4, times 2 more, and that is 8. So then I have 8y. How do I determine now what operation goes in here? Well, I look at my original and subtraction, so then that means that I need to write a subtraction sign because of up here. Subtraction. All right, so my final factored expression is 2 times the quantity 7x minus 8y. So that's the end of this lesson. To factor, remember that you need to find the greatest common factor between the two terms. And then when you can figure out the biggest number or term that you can divide by, then pull that out to the outside. It's going to look kind of like distributive property. You're trying to make it like it's doing distributed backwards, right? You're dividing it out, okay? And then what's left over goes on the inside. All right, that's the end of this lesson.